Okay, welcome back to the second part of the lecture on monopoly. So we've got the marginal cost curve, which is upward sloping, kind of looks like the Nike symbol there. We've got the marginal revenue schedule, which has already been calculated for us, and that's downward sloping. So for a monopolist, like this particular one, health pill, marginal revenue decreases as it sells additional units of the output. How come? Because it must make price concessions to sell more output. So the marginal cost curve, however, is upward sloping because of diminishing returns. So the profit maximizing choice for the monopolist will be to produce at the quantity where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost, right there at that point. Anything less than that, you're giving up profit opportunities. Anything more than that, you're producing output that costs you more than the revenue that you collect from selling it. So that would be bad news for the firm. All right, if the monopoly produces at a lower quantity, as I mentioned, marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost. So it's giving up something, it's leaving money on the table. If the firm produces greater than that, marginal costs begin to outstrip marginal revenue. Now, if you use the same marginal revenue and marginal cost curves, the AC curve and the demand curve are now being added on. The AC curve is this U-shaped or saucer-shaped curve that you see that's been drawn in. The health pill firm first chooses the quantity where MR equals MC. That's at a unit of 5, right? 5 units, quantity of 5 units. The large box with the quantity on the horizontal axis and demand, which shows the price on the vertical axis, shows the total revenue from the firm. In other words, if you take this price and you multiply it times this output, this whole big shaded box is the revenue. But that's not the profit of the monopolist because it still has cost. Average total cost times Q. So this lighter shaded rectangular area that's been shaded in, that's the total cost. So total revenue is the big chunk minus the light shaded chunk, leaves you with the dark shaded rectangle up top, and that's the firm's actual economic profit that it's earning, right? So, since the price charged is above average cost, the firm is earning clearly positive profits, right? And it doesn't pay the firm to actually try to sell any more units of the good. It doesn't pay the firm to come in here and sell 6 units because then marginal cost outstrips marginal revenue. It doesn't pay the firm either to try to rake the consumer over the coals and charge a higher price because if it charges this higher price, it'll sell less output. And marginal revenue will be greater than marginal cost, which is clearly not profit maximizing. All right, so how does it decide on this whole thing? What are the steps? Well, step 1, the monopolist's got to determine its profit maximizing level of output. That's MR equal MC. Then the monopolist is going to decide what price to charge. Then it's got to calculate its revenue, its costs, and then determine its profits by subtracting the two from one another. All right? All right, so here we have step 1, where the monopoly is choosing the profit maximizing level of output, which is going to be Q1. Why Q1? That's where MR equals MC. It's identified that quantity, where they're equal. Step 2, the monopolist is now going to have to decide how much it's going to charge. Well, if it wants to sell this many units, it's going to have to charge the price that bounces off its demand curve, that is P1, right? R is simply where it touches the demand curve, but P1 is the actual price. Thus, the monopolist is going to charge P1. Its costs are going to be down here. I'm calling it P2, but that's not actually a price. That's the average total cost of producing this many units. And that shaded region that's gray represents the profit that the monopolist is earning. So step 3, the monopolist identifies its profit, takes the total revenue to be the quantity times the price. The total cost is going to be Q1 multiplied by the average cost, which of course, as I mentioned, is P2, and profits are simply the difference between those two and is represented by that gray rectangle. All right, now because the market demand curve is conditional, the marginal revenue for a monopolist is always going to lie below the demand curve, right? And in fact, I want to say a couple of things about it. Marginal revenue is 0 right here. And that price would be a price that would maximize total revenue. That's not the goal of the monopolist, but I'm just mentioning it. And of course, it's silly to charge a lower price because now marginal revenue is negative. If marginal revenue is negative, that means your total revenue is declining. And you certainly wouldn't want to go to the left either unless it's equal to marginal cost, which we'll see in a moment. So there are some inefficiencies in monopoly, as you no doubt probably have guessed, right? That is, there's allocative efficiency issues that if producing the optimal quantity of some output, the quantity where marginal benefit to society of one more unit just equals to the marginal cost of that unit. Well, it turns out that in monopoly, we don't have that case because we have the price being way above the marginal cost. And that means that the monopolist actually finds it in its interest to produce less output than would actually prevail in a perfectly competitive market. All right? Until next time, take care and best wishes.